I normally have very low. It's 91. I'm normally about 60, probably in this sort of. Normally.
92.
92. I like it. 92. Yes. And rising.
Welcome to the channel. We've got a special guest who's going to be doing a lot of videos with us, all the way from basic right the way up to pro, and he's capable of doing it. He's called Steve Brunskill. He's a level 3 coach. He's a full-time coach, and he works out at Swerve Table Tennis Club, and he's sort of volunteered-ish to come and do it with us. So run the titles. Right then, Steve, what are we doing today?
We're going to look at backhand push.
Right.
Go right to the basics, start right at the beginning with a backhand push. The way coaching's set up now is that they believe you should always start with a positive shot, so they would start you with either backhand topspin or probably more than likely the forehand topspin, because kids would be more engaged in it and it sets a positive attitude, where starting with a backhand push might get a negative attitude. But I'm not necessarily totally behind that myself. I sometimes think it's hard then to go from having a kid doing something really exciting and playing a positive shot, and then you're wanting them to go back over and regress into this like negative pushing. And I think then they'll look at that negatively, where years ago when I started, we would start with backhand push, but then you know, powers to be sort of say, oh, it's not the correct way to go forward.
So you put more importance on the push?
Yeah, I think it's overlooked.
And that's what we're going to do today.
Yes,
we're going to have a go. Smashing. Right.
Yeah. So the backhand push is one of the most basic shots, or classed as the most basic shot, but it's used throughout every level, and I think it's very, very underrated, and it's used no matter what level you're going to be. And I think what people also forget is it's probably the main way that players return serve, especially beginner to mid-level. It's our main return of serve. If you play a defender, you're going to use it a lot. If you play long pimples, you're going to use it a lot. So you need to get really, really good at this shot. I'll hold one because it makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, well, that's it. You feel more comfortable holding your balls.
It's like a pacifier, isn't it? Yeah. So if we look at where we stand to start with, is I think one of the biggest issues people have when they first start playing is they play far too tight to the table, too close. So we need to get a bit of a distance away from the table, so we've got room to play and move. I would keep it a good arm, almost a bent arm's length away from the table to start with. And you can see, again, everything starts from the floor in table tennis. Feet shoulder width apart or slightly more. Knees bent, that's really important. And that bend in the knee allows the body to flex at the torso here. And there should be, for perfect balance, the shin and the body should be more or less in line with each other. So if I was to do it incorrectly, you could bend forward like that, and now balance isn't great, although I am bent over. Or you could bend and you're too upright. You want to keep away from them. You want it roughly equal. So your torso, don't think about it too much. Just bend the knees and your body will naturally come more or less in line with it. And then this is us being perfectly balanced, and that's what you want to start with. Then you could push from here if you want to, but I'm a big believer in you should have your playing leg forward. So in my opinion, it has to be forward for a short ball or medium ball, but I would even play a slightly long ball with it ever so slightly forward. You could still do it square on if you want, but then it means that a short ball or a medium ball's slightly different, where I always think if you always think you've got to have that foot in, then you've always got that in your mind. So stepping in slightly, but keeping my shoulders square. The bat you'll have a bent arm, and you will brush underneath the ball and forward, and you'll push into the ball a little bit. And this stepping forward brings my head close to the ball, and that's so important for keeping control and getting a good shot on. So all I'm doing is I'm just extending the arm forward ever so slightly. Don't want to be going straight. It's only a short shot, and I'm feeling and brushing down the back of the ball, creating backspin. after you push, you might have a slight recovery, or what I call a partial recovery, not fully. So I would never go 1, right back, 2, right back. It doesn't work in the real world. I might just pull this foot back, might just be an inch or 2, once I see what my opponent's going to do, and I might have to pull it back out, but it will depend on what I see as the game.
There's like efficiency of your movement.
Yes,
every
it
time,
is. Yeah. So if I just stay there and then they do an attack or dig it long, I'm stuck, I'm not moving. If I pull completely back and they drop it short, I've got to get right back in and again, and I might not get there. Where if I make my judgment and I come out just ever so slightly, whilst I'm making my judgment, I can either go back in or I can pull back out. Just on its own, I'm going to step forward and keep my head close, and you can see now I'll be looking down at the ball, and I can just brush forward and down, just that little movement, and just kind of push in a little bit and go down. So as a coach, and as if we produce a series of these as we go forward, the legs for me are key. Everything is about what happens on the floor. Everybody, I think, when people start playing, they think it's just about what your arm's doing, but actually it's not. You can actually, you don't. It's all about the feet and what happens on the floor. The shot starts with the ball's coming, and I take a little step to it, always. I'm always going to make a movement towards the ball. That's why we step back, because if we're too close, like I said, then we're stepping back. We don't want that. We want to be, we're here, and even if we don't really move forward, there's kind of a momentum forward and a momentum forward towards the ball. But let's say the ball just comes sort of mid-table. You're going to sort of step into the ball, and then that takes my head and my hand to the ball. So the first thing is what happens on the floor. This will stay here. There's neutral with my bat facing, and then I'm going to go step, and then play. Because this is going to be your main receiver. If you see the top players in the world at the moment, in the Olympics they're coming here and they're pushing. These are the top players in the world. I'll push that return serve. They're going all over the table. You know, they're not being, they're digging it out long, they're touching it short to set things up. They're not using it in such a negative manner. So we'll just start off basic backhand push. Something I probably didn't mention was that, obviously, for those that don't know, this would be a neutral bat where it's 90 degrees or right angles from either side. If I'm looking at my backhand with the side of my finger, this would be me opening my blade. If it's got an open blade, then obviously we're going to create backspin because we're going to brush underneath the ball. So for this shot, we need what we call an open blade. And this, from being kind of almost neutral to back, is something that no matter what level you get, how often you do it, is you're always judging that. That will always be what you judge. So if the ball's popping up, we're too open. If the ball's going in the net, you're too horizontal kind of thing with your bat. So we've got this that we're always working. As a very general tip, if you copy your opponent, you'll be somewhere near. If you do this as an exercise, always start with a backspin, because I see people when I say, go into backhand push, one person will go, and you cannot push it. Start and push it. So you have to practice your serves, and you should always practice your serves when you start anyway. So it's a backspin.
Steve, question: where are you? When I push, am I catching it at the top of the bounce, or the beginning of the bounce, or where? Because obviously I'm going to make mistakes, and you're probably going to say you need to hit it here, or you need
it depends on the type of push that you want. So if I was pushing short, trying to keep somebody short, I would take it very early. If I was just doing a general push and getting people to, you wanting to get someone to learn the basics of it.
So it's a rally. You're looking.
I would probably take it top of the bounce. If you were pushing very long and you were trying to catch somebody out, you might take it late. So it's not set in stone. I generally try to teach people to push early, but probably to get going, to get started.
Top of the bounce, middle of the table. Right, okay, that's what we're doing then.
So start with a backhand push. Your playing leg goes under for me. And again, so if it goes up, it just means you've gone underneath the ball too much. And we're always brushing and feeling the ball. Little brush. Brush the ball. Brush the ball. That's it, And yet, you can hear well, you'll probably be able to see
I can hear
my
your
feet.
feet, I can't see mine.
So my feet there is doing a partial recovery all the time when I'm doing that.
Mine
okay?
aren't.
Okay, so I go in underneath, that's it. And you can see how close the head is to the ball. And I'm all the time, I'm going to line up the centre of my stomach with the ball. That's my first key, is get my feet in position so it lines the centre of my body. So it's always the same. What we don't want is the elbow doing, the arm doing this. What you have to do is you have to go through the point of, I see where it comes up high, and go through that. So yeah, in a match situation you would smack it, or your opponent would smack it, but you're not going to learn to get the feel to bring it down, to learn to adjust your angle to get it down. You have to work off, okay, it's popped up, but how do I now bring that back down? How do I stop it from popping up? And I think one of the only ways is to work through that. If you sort of think, oh, it's popped up, bang, I'm going to hit it, which might be a progression much later on, yeah, you would do that. But once you've got the skill of, I can push, then for me, until you get that level, if it's up high, work through that. Don't just think, oh, I'm not going to bother. And the other thing is, people, I think, kind of don't put as much effort into this, where your effort should be the same. As much focus on this as you would on forehand loop or backhand loop. Yeah.
I'm starting to think feet and
yeah, just line your body up.
Oops.
That's it, there you go. Just get that feel.
I'm getting lazy with my feet again.
Yeah. So what happens is, people do get lazy, but you can't. If you do this right, your legs, you'll feel it in your legs, and if you're doing it very repetitively, you might even feel it in your forearm or your shoulder, because you're repeating the same. If you're not getting that repetitiveness, you won't get the aches and pains, which is a way that it's showing you that it's working, that you're doing it correctly all the same.
And it's this muscle memory of being out, out.
Yeah.
Do you coach things like that off the table? Is it like, when you say about footwork, do you actually go through routines? Because it is all about that.
Good question. Yeah, you can do. I'm a big believer in shadow play. So shadow play to me was massively underused in this country. Yeah. If you go to China, and Asia and places like that, they use it a lot. But in this country, for some reason, again, culture, you ask a kid to do it and it'll be like, rather than it's got to be. The good thing about shadow play is you can do it perfect every single time because there's no ball. But you've got to actually believe there's a ball, and you've got to be willing to do that. And I'm quite, my mindset was always, I could do 200 of that and I'll do 200 of something else, but finding other people that kind of mindset's not.
Does that improve like your muscle memory and things like that? So like when you do introduce a ball, you've already got that routine in your head.
Yeah.
That's
so when the ball comes in, the ball might go one there, so you do it dead right. Then the next one's there, but you haven't learned or developed it enough to get there. So then your next shot is this.
Yeah.
Then your next shot's this, and then that makes the next one difficult. And the ball, even with a good feeder, it's still going to move around, will create differences in your shot, which you don't really want. You want to get the shot first, and then you want to learn to handle the differences by manipulation and adjustment. But to start with, if you can, so especially if you're a total beginner, the coordination's not there to do this movement, because they've got the opponent to think about, the ball to think about, their shot. If their shot's not right, the next ball doesn't come back right. So it makes it it muddies the water a lot, rather than I can, just do this. Tip of the day, get your head close to the ball. Because it's a feeling and a touch shot, and the same with your forehand, but your backhand's going to be very close. I would say, it's probably the closest your head's going to be to it. Because
you're literally right on top of it.
I believe you should be right on top of it.
Rather than this, which is
rather than this.
Now we go on to common mistakes.
Right, so common mistakes is, I think, not putting the plain leg under the table, or some people will go in with the other leg, which you can do, but it restricts how far you can reach in. So there is a time and a place to put your non-playing leg in.
If you're right
But
round the
in
edges.
general, you would go in with your playing leg.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, common mistake would be not putting the leg underneath, reaching, being at arm's length. Some people, when they put this leg in, this is a finer common mistake, but I see a lot of people, when I say to them, look, I want your leg to go in, they'll go, and they'll turn the shoulder, so now they've got the back to the forehand side, and this foot's pointing the wrong direction. So if I go in, I'm going to go in and my foot's still going to slightly be open and facing my opponent, but my chest is. So from here I can, where if I go, I put the shoulder.
So that's a massive tip. That's a tip as well as a as a common mistake.
As a common mistake, yeah.
But yeah, I'll tell you a top tip. Top tip is go to a good coach who can put you right. I mean, although it all falls out your head as you walk away from the place, you know, as you know from many years.
But if something sticks, then that's it.
Yeah, but it is all about doing it right, isn't it? It's like if you practice the same thing wrong, you're never going to get anywhere. But if someone can go, actually, your elbow's up here, try and do this or do that, you know, that's what all that makes a difference.
Well,
good coaching.
That as a coach, that a tip maybe is that I think as a coach, for other coaches is, if you're going to make mistakes, make the same mistake. Right. So always be turned. Don't be sometimes not, sometimes this way, sometimes that way. Because how do you put that right? There's 5-10 things to put right. Where if you've got one, you know, people say, "Oh, it's a bad habit. I do that." Well, I don't mind that. I've got one thing to put right. You've got one bad habit to put right. It's better to have that. So some people think, I've got nobody there, I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong. And I think to myself, it's still better to practice even if you're doing it wrong, I believe, because you're still learning loads of other skills, timing, feel, touch, watching what your opponent's doing, movement. Do it wrong rather than worry about, you know, because it takes years to create a really bad habit. But as long as the wrong's the same wrong all the time. So rather than think, I'm not sure that's right or wrong, I'm not sure that's right or wrong, just get what you think is right and then just work on that.
Yeah, so you're making small adjustments rather than overcompensation. I do that all the time. I'm like Jenga, where I'll go, I'll really...
when you say me backhand's not working, I'll think, well, which one? Because you got 10, 20 different backhands that you're doing. Where if you have one backhand or two or three backhands, and I'll think, right, okay, there's the main one you use, it's not right, but it's not right because of this, then you just have to put that right. As a drill, back when you take this backhand pushing back into your practice hall, a good drill is, I would tend to put either a chalk mark on the table, 2 chalk marks, or you can use tape, like a decorator's tape. And this area here, the middle bit, we don't really want to be playing in. It's like no man's land, it's an easy ball. So then the pushing will go, if you're pushing even across the court, if you like, so one person's pushing, you're pushing a short ball into that area, and then the second short ball is coming into this area here. So you're going 1-1, so you're going short and long, and you're keeping away from this no man's land that you don't really want to be playing in. There's not really hardly any advantage to playing in that area. So it's just a nice little drill, rather than just going back and push across the court. One of you can do 5-10 minutes doing this, alternating, and then switch round. It's a really good way to improve your feel and your touch, because you've got to learn to dig it long and touch it short, so getting that different kind of feel on the ball. See you on the next one.